I would say that don't always expect your payoff to come from the place that you're investing in. So sometimes things pay off down the line. And if you see my whole career, it was a series of breaks and game-changing breaks and just being ready and thoroughly prepared for what's to come next.
If somebody listening now is, and this is kind of reiterating what I mentioned earlier, thinking, all of that's great, and I'm happy that all of those things happened for James. None of that stuff is ever going to happen to me. It's just never going to happen. I don't think that I can make the transitions that I want, or I don't think that anybody's going to give me the chance to tell my stories because of the color of my skin. What do you tell them? How do we get them to the point where they do the work that's necessary so they can tell their stories, so they can put themselves in the right place at the right time, so nobody has the opportunity to ever say no to them?
Well, I would say this. Number one, don't have that attitude that it's never going to happen. Because if you don't believe it's going to happen, it may never happen. So don't block your own blessings. That's number one. Whatever you desire to do, effort that. Whether you're being paid or whether you're not being paid. If you want to go to features, look at a ton of movies, talk to feature editors, hang out with them, read scripts that are widely available online, figure out what happened from the script to screen, all these things. And I would say that don't always expect your payoff to come from the place that you're investing in. So sometimes things pay off down the line. And if you see my whole career, it was a series of breaks and game-changing breaks and just being ready and thoroughly prepared for what's to come next. And so I kind of felt my way through it from decision-making and preparation. And that's what a lot of people's story is going to be. You don't always get the opportunity to go, look, I put in so much work as an assistant on this show. And so therefore, that's the show that should recognize my efforts and make me an editor. I should get bumped up on that editor. It might, as an editor, it might not come until one or two shows later. And so you just got to stay in there. You got to keep grinding. You got to keep believing, and you got to keep preparing no matter what, because it's going to happen. Right now, in this very moment, I have 4 people after I hang up with you who are sitting on game-changing opportunities, from either assistants to getting into that chair, or from VFX cutting to going into that chair. Whatever it is, right now, Hollywood is casting a wider net than I've ever seen movement on. And if you're ready to go and you're committed and other people can see that, I think that the opportunity will come. You know, I don't have a GPS for any particular person on how to get there, except know what you want to do along the way. Try not to get pigeonholed, learn anything you don't know, and don't give anyone a reason to say no to you. I started in news. I transitioned out of that to a freelance editor. I transitioned out of that from music videos and commercials to eventually getting into scripted drama. And then the opportunity came for me to work in comedy with Damon Wayans and Chris Rock. And I learned under those great comedians. And then I went back into drama, and all those skills I use in every aspect of what I'm doing, because there's great drama in comedy and there can be great comedy in drama. So it's the whole toolkit now that has prepared me for where I am right now. So I would say that is the thing. Just keep diversifying your career and trying your very best to develop your craft. You never stop learning, which is fantastic. We're in a business where we can continue to grow and develop our craft.
I couldn't have said any of that better myself, and there's one thing that I want to just expand on a little bit, because I think it's so important, and I want to make sure people don't overlook it. It's this idea that what you're doing right now may not pay off immediately. I think that's one of the biggest reasons that people get discouraged. Well, I tried this, it didn't work, so I guess that was a bad idea. And the reason I bring it up is I just had this conversation with Debbie this morning, who is the whole reason that you and I are on this call in the first place. We have a mutual friend, editor Debbie Germino. And I was talking to her on a Zoom call today, and we were talking through different job opportunities, and I brought up this thing called the Stanford marshmallow experiment. Are you familiar with this?
Is that the experiment where you can have 2 if you wait, or 1? Yeah.
Yeah. So in 1972, there was an experiment at Stanford where they took kids and they put them in a room, and they said, you can either have a marshmallow now, or if you wait 15 minutes, we'll give you 2 marshmallows. And if you're talking to a 5-year-old kid, like 15 minutes, that is an eternity to wait for a marshmallow. But the important thing is what they found is that they studied them until they were adults. And there was a very direct correlation between those that were willing to delay gratification and those that were successful. So for anybody that says, well, I tried that, it didn't work, I guess that was stupid, I'm going to go back to what I was doing before, you got to see through the lens of this game being chess and not checkers. And that's exactly what your career was. At the time, it's like, well, did that checkers move? I guess that didn't pay off. But let's wait 2 years. Let's wait 3 years. Let's wait 5 years. How did the chess move pay off? And that's because you were so well prepared, but you were so good at managing and maintaining these relationships. So I want to make sure people really understand how important that is to the core foundation of your story, because anybody can control that. They can't replicate your version of the story. Nobody has the GPS. But if you find the foundational, fundamental steps that you've taken, I really believe that everyone's journey is incredibly similar as long as you break it down to those steps. And that's a big one. You have to be willing to delay gratification and sometimes say no, even though yes seems like the better answer right now, because no gets you where you want to get in the long term. Yeah. So I think that's such an important point that you made.
So, yeah, I mean, I still continue to practice that same thing, and I'm learning all the time. And, that just goes back to never quitting. That's the athletic side of me. The worst thing that you can do in sports is consider to quit. And so maybe I've been pigheaded in some ways a lot of times where I should have left a bad job earlier or whatever, but there's always something to learn from all of those experiences. And I'll tell you this, lastly, I would say this, as successful as my career has been, and I've covered a lot of ground and had an amazing career and met some really unique and special people and experiences that I don't know if I would have ever had outside of this industry. I just have to say that, wow, I mean, it's been pretty incredible. And for all of that, I've never thought of myself as being great. I've left whatever has been said to me or about me to others. So I guess what I'm saying is I did not stamp my own passport. I prepared my passport for stamping, but I let other people talk about how good, if he's great, he's the one you want. You'll love him. I let other people say that. So because of that, I didn't rush myself into thinking that my immediate gratification of an opportunity was sanctioned by myself only. Because sometimes we're not as good as we think we are. We're not as prepared as we believe we are. Sometimes it takes other people and that recommendation to say, I have a person in mind for you. It's you do all you can do, obviously, to be prepared. But part of it was the duality of being ambitious and patient.